Hello, my name is Genevieve and welcome to the Missing Pages database. Now, before this video, we did record a quick 6-minute intro video to kind of give you the gist, show you a few pages of the site, and give you a general idea of how things worked. But in this video, we're going to give you a little more of an in-depth overview of how the site works. So first off, when you go to the website, it should pop up with this home page. If you're watching this video, you're probably either already on the website or maybe you're watching it on YouTube, in which case the link to the website will be in the description box below the video. All right, so from this homepage, we can click to any of these tabs at the top. So we're just going to start on this side and kind of work our way over. So if we click on the About tab, this will give a general description of kind of what the website is. There is that 6-minute intro video I talked about if you want to go back and look at that. You don't have to, but if you'd like to. And yeah, this just kind of explains what the site is and why we made it. So to give you like kind of a quick overview of that, Missing Pages is essentially a database of about 70 women writers, American women writers from the 17th to 20th centuries. And in my dreams, we would do this with all female writers from all countries across the globe. But just for the scope of this one project, we chose to focus on American writers. But I would love to see this diversification kind of branch out to everywhere. So yeah, so basically it's a collection of biographical information and links to the work of 70 under-researched American women that have been left out of a lot of literary canons. And the purpose of this is to help diversify the literary canon and to help educators bring these writers back into the classroom and really reincorporate them into their curriculum. Because I think we can all agree that diversification is important, but it's really challenging if, modern educators, through no fault of their own, don't even know the names of these writers. So that's why we are here, and that's kind of why we designed the site. But you may be asking, who's we? Well, as I said, my name is Genevieve Feaster. I was the student creator and researcher for this site in collaboration with my amazing faculty mentor, Professor Kelly Jo Fulkerson DeCua, who is my project advisor. She's amazing. She gave me lots of amazing support and suggestions and guidance as we were working on putting this together. So thank you so much to Professor Fulkerson DeCua, and thank you as well to the Denison University Liska Center, who provided funding for this project. All right, so that's the About page. So if we go over to the Contact page, as you could see on the About page, I did list my email address and Professor Fulkerson DeCua's email address. However, I also have my email for convenience dotted in a few different places around the site. So here on the Contact page, you can again see the kind of collage of several of our lovely women writers to give you kind of like a sneak peek. And then I give you, my email and then my LinkedIn information if you'd like to connect with me there or check that out. So you're welcome to look at either of those. You're welcome to send me any questions, comments, concerns you have, anything like that related to the database. I am more than happy to answer them and to hear your feedback. And then here at the end, we also have a group at Denison University called Stories on the Hill. It's a volunteer reading initiative. And essentially what we do is we record public domain stories and post them on YouTube as like little audiobooks for people to read and to listen to, particularly during the pandemic when a lot of us were really isolated. And because of that, we actually do have a couple books by some of the authors on this site recorded on our channel for that group. So we have Gertrude Chandler Warner's The Boxcar Children and Grace Livingston Hill's The Enchanted Barn that I'm currently working on recording. So if you would like to hear some of these writers read aloud, we'll continue recording more in the future. So if you'd like to hear some of that, be sure to check out our YouTube channel, which is linked with this little picture there. You can go see that. and our Facebook and Twitter, which are also embedded if you click on them. All right. So that's the contact page. So then if we go over to the by time period page, so this from here you can select from this like little menu of what time period you'd like to see writers from. So you can also do this from the drop-down menu, and so you would just click on the time period you wanted. So say I was looking for writers in the pre-19th century. So it would load this page, and as you can see, it lists writers in the same streamlined format as you'll see across the time period section, where the biographies for our writers are primarily concentrated. And I'll explain that a little bit later more. But to give you a brief idea of kind of how all the biographies are set up, we have a lovely picture of each of the women that is embedded with the source where we got it from. So you can see that and see more information on them. And then, of course, we have their name. And then under that, we have categories listed of where they can also be found. And these are also embedded links to different sections of the site. So, for example, Phyllis Wheatley wrote poetry, and she was also a Black writer. So you could click on either of those to take you to those sections. So just to kind of give you an idea, if I clicked on Black writers, it would take you to that period. And we'll look at that section a little bit later as well. All right, but to continue on with the biography section, we have the Who Was She section, which is where the actual biography of kind of their life and their work are laid out for you. So here we outline their early life, their achievements, some of their works, and those titles. And one thing you won't find here, though, as I mentioned in the intro video, is many references to their husbands, their spouses, their children, anything along those lines, as these are specifically designed to highlight the achievements of these women, not who their romantic partners were. All right, so under the biography section, we have the What Did She Write About section, where we list a bunch of common topics that the writer explored in their work. So, for example, for Phyllis Wheatley, that would be pride in her African heritage, religion, opposition to slavery, things of that nature. So you can kind of narrow down what you're looking for in your curriculum in that way. And then we have the Where Can I Find Her Work section. And for a lot of these writers, who are published before 1925, a lot of their work is in the public domain, in which case we link online public domain databases for you, like Project Gutenberg. That's probably one of the most common ones we have linked on here. And then sometimes we have other poetry sites or other online databases that we also have linked. And then we have stores listed where you can purchase their work as well, particularly if they are not in the public domain and you do have to purchase their work. So how you would do that is you would just click on that, and it would either take you to the listing of books that are available at the stores. It's mostly half-price books in Barnes & Noble, so you can see that. Or one possible, Project Gutenberg, because who doesn't love free legal stuff that you can just read and use in your classroom? So we have that for you as well. So that's the basic layout of the time period section. As you can see, it's pretty much the same for all of these women writers. All right, so that's the basic outline of each of the sections of the time period section. So please do feel free to explore each of those and the lists we have there on your own. And then we'll go ahead and move over to the by genre section, excuse me. And here again, you'll just select a genre. So say I'm looking for nonfiction and journalism. It would load a list of the names of women who fall into those categories. And in these sections, we have them divided up by century. So commonly it's 19th century and 20th century. For the poetry genre, and maybe for a couple of other ones, we will have a pre-19th century section. It just kind of depends on the genre and what writers we have in that category. So we have the lists of writers here. And as you can see, this section doesn't have biographies, but we do provide links back to the time period section. So say, for example, you were looking for someone who wrote nonfiction or journalism, and you find Sui Sin Far, and you're like, oh, I want to check her out. I want to see her biography, see what other categories she falls under. Well, all you would have to do is click on 19th century. It would take you back to the 19th century page, and then you could search, do a search and find for their name. Now, Sui Sin Far is pretty easy because she's right at the top. So let's maybe try, let's try Fanny Crosby. So if we click on 19th century again, let's say, okay, here's the page, but if you're looking for a specific author, you can do a search and find. So Control F, I believe, is what it is on most desktops, and you'll just do Fanny Crosby, and it'll load the biography of that particular woman for you. It'll take you right to it on the page. So there's that for you, and that's pretty much the same layout of all of the sections. One slight difference might be that for sections like novels and different like short fiction and plays, we might have covers of the books instead of the actual like people's pictures. So for example, you could click on this book by Charlotte Armstrong, and it would take you to where you can buy that book, or where you can view an article about that book or that author online. So yeah, that's the genre section. And then moving right along, if we look at the historically marginalized section, this is a section that was particularly important, I think, for me to include, because I wanted to build a database of women writers, but I wanted to make sure it was a diverse one. I wanted to make sure I had writers from a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different races and cultures and sexualities. And so that's why I created this section, to kind of help keep track of and kind of monitor that and make sure I was keeping it pretty diverse. And actually, in terms of the number of writers we have on here, about half of them are from at least one of these historically marginalized groups. Maybe a little over than half, a little more than half, roughly. And so, yeah, so I definitely wanted to make sure we have that diversity. And this works similarly to a lot of the sections. So if you were to click on either here or under the drop-down menu, and say you were looking for Black writers, you could click on that section. And again, you have the linked book covers here. And then you also have lists, the divided up lists of what centuries the writers are from, and links back to those centuries. So that works much in the same way in terms of formatting as the other sections. All right, and this last section, I'm very excited to show you this entire site, but I had fun making all of it, but I had so much fun making this part. This is the tips and resources for educators section. And essentially this is kind of like okay, you know, you've learned about some of these female writers, you'd like to incorporate them into your curriculum. That's awesome. But how are you going to do it? What's that integration process going to look like? Well, ultimately, that's up to you, of course. But we did want to give you as many resources and tips and advice from experts as we could to kind of help smooth out that process and make it a little bit easier for you, because we understand that that type of integration is a very delicate process. So here we essentially have a curated list of those tips. We have online tools. This is a link to like worksheets from Teachers Pay Teachers to help with this. We have an article from Learning for Justice with a lesson plan. This wonderful, wonderful YouTuber and teacher from this channel called Pocketful of Primary has a lot of amazing ideas like Padlet for anonymous discussion. There's also Fakebook, which essentially allows you to create fictional, completely fake, non-public profiles for like fictional characters or authors. So you can use that to help make a little fun project for your students to research one of these authors. We also have this thing called Wheel of Names, and where you can also kind of make assigning these writers fun or talking about these writers fun, and kind of a randomized process. So just to give you an idea, we did link a couple of templates here. As I said, I had maybe a little bit too much fun with this. But so say you wanted to pick one of these writers to do, or you wanted to assign your students one of these writers. All you would have to do, excuse me, is click to spin, and you can, there you go. So you could have that screen for your student where it would automatically select a writer like Jessie Redmond Fawcett and make that a little more interactive and fun. And we also have one of those for our categories as well. Then we have just different general ideas. So like an internet or library scavenger hunt for these authors or for diverse authors in general. We have lots of resources and tips from scholars and articles from experts on how to discuss gender, racial, and cultural barriers, especially when you're looking at these texts by women. That could be important to bring in. So we have some ideas for that to give students a more complete understanding and an in-context understanding of these women. Then we have things like fun book crafts. Here's one inspired by Rodchenko's eggs that a homeschool mom got really creative with. So you can brainstorm things for that. And yeah, just more general tips. We have a Kahoot for a few of these women writers to give you an idea of what that could look like in your classroom. And yeah, just that general kind of curated list. So we have a lot here. Feel free to check out any of those. And this is a dynamic website, so we'll keep updating it and keep adding more writers as time goes on. So be sure to check back in. Now for our last few tabs, we have the sources section with some very special thanks to my advisor, the Liska Center, my online sources I used for research, and Professor Roberto Marquez, who provided really, really crucial resources and even one of his own translations to this project. So I can't thank them enough. All of these people are amazing. The Liska Center is amazing. And so thank you all. And yeah, just a kind of disclaimer section here. All of the sources should be right over here. And I worked really hard to use sources that were reliable, that would help me portray the women accurately, and to give appropriate credit to my sources. But I am always looking for feedback. So if something doesn't look right, please do let me know so we can discuss that and I can hopefully get that fixed. So yeah, here we have all of the links. As you can see, it's quite a lot of sources, and it might be a little overwhelming. But say you read up on a particular author and you'd like to find out more about them, but you're not sure exactly where to go. Well, one thing you can do is you can search their last name in here. So say, for example, Nellie Bly is another one of the authors that we have on this website. So if I was like, okay, I read Nellie Bly's biography, I want to learn more about her online. All you would do is you would do the control find, and you would type in Bly, and there you go. It takes you right to the sections where we have a bunch of resources and links to where we got our information on Nellie Bly to help give you that kind of inside perspective, more in-depth perspective on those women. So we have that for you. We also have the More Writers section, which I also really love because we designed this website, essentially the initial draft, over a 5-week period. And unfortunately, as much as I would have loved to, it's nowhere near possible to cover all of the amazing women that contributed so much to literature and that who deserve to be integrated into the literary canon. It's impossible to cover all of them in 5 weeks. There are so many. And so we provided this list here for you all of over 80 additional authors. And I have to say with this, when I was doing my initial research for this project, one complaint I came up with is that, women writers can't be incorporated into canons because there just aren't enough of them. Well, as you can see, that's nowhere near true. So we have over 80 additional writers listed here. Again, we're always adding to and improving the site and adding new biographies. So please do check back for more. But in the meantime, here are these additional women's names. And then last but not least, we have the feedback and questions section, where you can either, as I said, you can email me with any comments or questions directly, or you can fill out one of these feedback surveys. So if you have particular questions or comments, you can click on this embedded link here, and you can absolutely feel free to keep it anonymous. We just ask what you're using the site for, to kind of give us an idea of that, but we don't ask for your name. And so this can be completely anonymous, and just general suggestions. You absolutely don't have to fill out all of this. Is just to give you kind of a variety of what kind of response you might want to do or what kind of rating you might want to give. And this really, really helps us to improve the site and to make updates to it. So please do fill that out if you have any feedback or questions. And then if you have utilized this in your classroom or your curriculum or your library, wherever you're using this and whatever you're using it for, that is amazing. We love that, and we would love to hear about it and hear how it went. So please feel free to email me as well with any of those tips, your experiences. You can also share it anonymously in the miscellaneous section of the Google survey. Anything like that. We love feedback, so please send that in. And yeah, that is Missing Pages. So please have fun exploring the site. Please have fun introducing it to your students